but it is a direct violation of the law. But I don't believe perhaps that law has the legal teeth to bite anybody who has done that. But I think rather than the president maybe to have his legacy being questioned about the integrity of the elections he conducted, he decided to tell these people, saying, oh, the president's loyalty is in another party. I have shown you, I have done my best. Now that has doused that tension completely. Now, but for the other politicians, other presidential candidates and their supporters, they fling it. We saw it, and of course, so the ambush on the law is everywhere now. But I would like to also caution the citizens about excessive adherence to this politics of sentiment. I want us to look at the issue of what we call the politics of parochialism, where people appeal to this ethnic and sentiments. People should be able to know there's no amount of strategic engagement within a cycle of ethno-tribal and religious enclaves that will produce a leader for Nigeria. People should be able to know one entire region in Nigeria is incapable, according to our law, to produce a president. No regions of this country has the capacity to do that. No religion in this country has the capacity to do that. The confusion are created basically by some of these religious leaders who hide in religious garments to project political interests.
We need to go to Kogi State now, where I understand we have our correspondent Oyiza Bello. Hello, Oyiza. Oyiza, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. What's the situation like at your location?
Yesterday, INEC rescheduled election in 9 polling units in Ajakuta local government areas of Kogi State. I'm presently at Code 042 village. There is no presence of INEC officials, but the voters and security personnel are on ground.
Okay. Can you tell us about the security situation during yesterday's elections?
The security men were fully on ground yesterday. I think they did their part. There was, when we came to Granaja area of Kogi State, the commissioner of police was here, the immigrations were here, and a lot, the police, the custom, the national, what they call it, the civil defense were also here at that yesterday. And even this morning, we have the military, we have the police, and we also have the civil defense on ground.
Okay. Can you confirm to us there were reports of gunshots in parts of Kogi State yesterday, and that a particular one or two local government areas were a kind of cordoned off, that voters in those areas were not able to exercise their franchise. I think Okehi and Okene, if I'm correct. Can you confirm to us?
Yes. At Oboroke, Hima, in Okehi local government, we heard that there were snatching of ballot boxes and gunshots. At Adabi local government too, we also heard of series of attacks on voters.
Okay. Keep us posted, Lisa. We'll leave it at that for now. As events unfold, let's know what goes on in your
All
location.
right,
Thank you, and be safe.
thank you.
All right, that was correspondent to Lisa Bello, from Kogi State, talking about violence in some parts of the states during the elections yesterday, and the fact that some local governments, voters from some local governments were not able to exercise the franchise.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
Violence against women in politics
We'll get there.
seems to be no. I'm talking of Kogi.
Kogi, yeah.
Seems to be playing out. I'm talking of Kogi. Seems to be playing
I
out.
want you to take it fully. Not just violence against women, but women's participation in
In
politics
politics.
generally.
Violence against women is a big part of disenfranchising women from the political space. And Natasha Akoti and Yaya Bello are from Kogi Central, and which is calm, well, is relatively calm. But Kogi East is a hotbed. I don't know whether it's still a hotbed today, but as at yesterday, it was hot. And um, there was snatching of ballot boxes, destruction of polling units. These are reports from yesterday, and etc. in the Kenya local government area. So, and Apoti came, social media, I don't take it so seriously, but these are clips that were put there that she had been cutting off and that she cannot even come out. She showed the things. It was social media, not verified. So this is a problem. Well, because I'm a woman, I don't want to get too sentimental about it because it could have been a man. But this had been going on with Natasha and the governor for quite some time, even in 2019. Even in 2019, similar issues happened. So I don't know. Violence can take many forms. It can be verbal, it can be physical attack, it can be lack of access to roads, like it's happening. It can be threats about your children. I know where they school. A man may not be so bothered about this, but when you mention my children, I jump, like I've done many times on this program. When you mention my children, I live where I am. I want to go there immediately. So a woman's reaction is different to these things. And what is perceived as violence for a woman will not be the same for the man. You know. And when we're talking about gender equality, that is why we talk about gender equity for women as a stepping stone for that equality, because men have been there for so long. I don't want to go there. It's my passion. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Abdullahi.
I think
Women's
my take is-
participation in politics and violence against women in elections.
Yeah, we have seen that. I think it's not new that particular political friction between the governor and
How
this
do we change the
powerful,
narrative?
powerful ladies. It's just to call all of them because they belong to the youth cluster, and of course I have to call on them not to disgrace and put to shame the constituency they came from. They have double constituencies. Apart from the fact that both of them came from Kogi as a constituency, they are all belonging to the cluster of the young people, which is the most instrumental constituency. The governor should be the beacon of hope for the youth of this country. But unfortunately, certain things are just really coming out that are not really the reflection of what ought to be of the young or the youngest governor in Nigeria. But I think if he will, to a certain extent, adjust and do what he needs to do, and the youth of this country will be proud of him. But also the women dimension of it, or the orchestrated violence that is targeted towards the women, is not something also new, because it has been there. We have seen where Togri, the violence, what have you. Many or 90% of some of these electoral crimes are committed by men, so to say. Even though yesterday in Kaduna and in Edo, we've seen where women are used because politicians are clever. Most of the women are the ones used to be buying because they have sweet lyrics. They know the strategy more. A lady was found with a lot of stockpile of voters' cards she has bought. Her phone was checked. Several transfers to certain individuals. Investigation is on. Oshomole in Edo State also intercepted uh, one of the agents of a particular political party and has been, is under investigation. They've seen the transfers he has made to voters to influence or to continue with the merchandise of vote buying. And in several locations across the country, even here in the FCT, we've seen situations whereby some of those people were hanging, looking for the lowest hanging fruit of who will be the next victim so that they can change his mindset. Please, we will transfer this thing. We have dollar, but we will do all of this. We've seen them, but the EFCC and ICPC also needs to be commended because they are vigilant and the eagle eyes were shined more on the electorate. And of course, they sent a serious signal that required a lot of commendation. And also, there are room for improvement in the deficiencies we have observed. Just as we said, Kogi is one of the most dangerous flashpoints in terms of elections in Nigeria, and particularly or specifically this time around. So I call on the security agencies to be able to do more. And INEC is hearing what we're saying. They should be able to find out and also send their contingent there so that those Nigerians in Ajakuta, the 9 polling unit in Ajakuta, should not be disenfranchised because 9 units could make a difference, could add to a presidential candidate, and he will have an edge, or that the vote coming from there is enough to balance the pendulum. It may be sending the country into a rerun. So these people should not be neglected or be disenfranchised.
Okay. Please be reminded that we're streaming live on YouTube at Radio Nigeria Network and on Facebook at /Radio Nigeria. YouTube at Radio Nigeria Network and Facebook at /Radio Nigeria. Be part of this program, Mandate Studio. Dr. Kusa, you just said that it's not new, it's been going on. What do we do to change the narrative?
This is a patriarchal society where men have been in charge before my great grandmother was born. And in fact, women have been recruited for female genital mutilation. They had to comply, or else they would be sanctioned. Grandmas will do the female genital mutilation, which is unnecessary and would give the girls mental health issues, which they don't even know. You know, it's now we are giving labels to these things, mental health, female genital mutilation. They've been happening for centuries. And you don't decree that kind of thing overnight. No, nobody hands power over voluntarily. It takes advocacy, it takes reorientation, it takes communication, and especially strategic communication in the language of the grassroots for this message to sink. Even in the West, they're saying that for women to catch up with men for equality, it will take another maybe 300 years or so. So I don't know how many hundreds it will take us here. The conclusion here is more sensitization is necessary. You cannot decree over a patriarchal society to stop being patriarchal overnight. That is not to say it is desirable. But this radio program is part of the sensitization. And I commend Radio Nigeria for putting 4 hours in the morning and maybe another 4 hours in the evening on this electoral process.
Yes.
And while we are mirroring this electoral process, so many things are coming out. Violence against women, violence against the electorate, feminization of poverty, the issue of poverty, drugs in the society, drugs in elections, underage voting, because we saw a bit of that. Kano was a classic example where a high-level officer, I will not mention who, in the state was asked, how come there's so many underage children in these polling booths in your state and you are here? If this is obvious, that was a correspondent asking him. He said the answer was, you don't know the genetic makeup of every child. That child might have refused to grow. He might be 7, he might be 18 and be looking 6. I thought that was a lame answer. Seriously. So many things have come out in our discourse this morning. Underage voting, vote buying, vote selling, feminization of poverty, the effect, good governance, poor governance, what it can do, healthcare, education, and so forth. It's a potpourri of so many things. Election brings all these things together, and I'm happy we're discussing them. We're making progress. And this Violence against women is not something that will stop immediately, but we need to advocate. And I commend Radio Nigeria for for putting this on the front burner. Thank you.
Before I come to you, Dr. Abdullahi, because I know that out of the over 15,000 contestants in this election, you understand, I'm not sure women formed up to 8% of them, but I'll come back to you. We need to go to Bauchi now, where we have Abubakar Baba Ahmed. Hello, Abubakar.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well, ma'am.
All right, give us an update of on how the election went yesterday in Bauchi. I know that in some polling units in Bauchi State, some people voted late into the night. So some were even using torch, to assist the INEC officials and all of that. In the units that you monitored, tell us how it all
Exactly,
went.
very correct. I was stationed within Bauchi Metropolis yesterday, where I visited some polling units, and one major polling unit I visited was the one in Faria Foundation Primary School, located along Padama Mada within the metropolis. This polling unit or polling station has about 3,047 eligible voters. But the INEC officials arrived at around 10 in the morning, which was almost the same thing across most of the polling units. Voting actually started around 11:30 in the morning. Um, One problem that actually happened with this polling unit was there was voting points A, B, and C, but only officials for voting point B were on ground. People started voting, but anybody that goes for the Beavers accreditation will be told that his name is not on that particular list and he has to wait. So people protested, and later the officials went back to INEC office to get the other Beavers machines. And actually, election started around 2 a.m., but people were also apprehensive. The problem was that many people could not vote up to 6 p.m. in the evening, and a lot of people have to leave the polling unit without voting, while hundreds said defied the rigor and stayed until the wee hours, up to 1 a.m. in the night, just to ensure they cast their vote. And one thing I learned that and people were complaining was the people deployed for the police station as officials had little knowledge about the election process, because they were finding it difficult or struggling to even man the machines and follow the process that INEC stipulated. And that has made the voting process very, very slow. And one thing that I learned from people is that there were serious allegations of replacement of ad hoc staff that were actually trained by the Independent National Electoral Commission with others that were not at all trained to handle these election materials.
Okay, Abubakar, from your own
Yes.
assessment, what can you tell us about the security, arrangements now in yesterday's election?
Okay, in that particular polling unit and other baby polling units where they had less number of voters, some had 50, some had less than 100. Actually, the pattern of security was that there was one police officer, one civil defense officer, and some federal safety corps officials. Uh, at times when there seems to be some rowdiness, they do call in for backups. When they come, they settle the issue and they leave. So I would say that there was no much of security concern in most of the polling units. That it was only the delay and the very slow pace of accreditation and voting.
May everybody in the queue yesterday, got to vote eventually.
Everybody got to vote it well, but it actually went into wee hours of the night,
Mm.
up to 1 a.m. People were still on the queue. And there were women, there were aged people, and there were men who were even tired. Some women could not tend to their children. They could not maybe do their normal household chores up to the wee hours of the night. So that was a very difficult situation for many people. And that was what led to so many people leaving without actually voting.
What can you tell us about sorting of ballots and collation of results in Bauchi?
Okay, earlier this morning, some of the polling units have already compiled their vote and they have already sent it to the next stage of the collation. But as INEC has said, it is not proper for anybody using the social media platform, or some people as the case has been that people are sending every result from the polling stations and telling people, which is making people feel a little bit apprehensive. But we have already tried in our local our mandate students to enlighten people on the need to allow INEC to do its job of collating the result and making the final pronouncement.
Absolutely. From your assessment, what was the turnout like yesterday?
The turnout was actually quite excellent because, as I said earlier, in one of the polling units I visited, there are about 3,047 eligible voters. And I could say that as much as almost up to 2,000 people came out to vote, because that was what led to late night voting in that particular polling unit. While some of the baby polling units had already finished voting even at 2 p.m. In the afternoon, 2 a.m. in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Abubakar. We'll leave it here right now. Please do call back into the program to let us know what goes
All
on
right.
over there. Thank you.
All right.
Before I come to take your reactions, I need to go to Calabar now, where I have Bernadine Anam from Calabar. Hello, Bernadine. Hello. Are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, we'll get back to Bernadine in Calabar. Yes, Dr. Abdullahi, you heard our correspondent from Bauchi. But before then, I asked you a question
Yeah.
on the low level of women's participation in politics and violence. I did say also that out of the over 15,000 contestants that we had across the country yesterday, I'm not sure that women made up to 8% of them.
This is due to a number of factors, which to me, these are very strategic, strong factors, which the women themselves aid and abet them. To start with, when we look at the women naturally, because of some of these factors like religion, culture, and tradition, and also the psychological, emotional predispositions of the women themselves have combined to condition or made them to voluntarily condition themselves or subordinate themselves to the men. In other words, the way the game of politics is being played, women have this natural psychological tendencies not to be too volatile. And unless the system itself, the nature of the politicking here is changed, women may not be able to participate effectively and sufficiently. And also their attitudes, because there's problem. One of the fundamental problem is in their attitude. We have so many rich women. We have women with ability, with the intellect, with the knowledge to participate. But you see them unfortunately subordinating themselves to the whims and caprices of these men.
You will continue, but let me come in there.
Yeah.
Is it that? Are you sure about that? Is it that the women voluntarily, as you've said, subordinate themselves to the men, or that even the what do I call it now? The rules or the laws of the political parties does not really give the women much room. For instance, for most political parties in Nigeria, I think the only position
Women leader.
yeah, she just said it. So are you saying that is voluntary subordination, by the women to the men?
Let me tell you something that will surprise you.
Mm.
Women are more than 65% of the voters. They have a high number. Unfortunately, their voting capability takes expression in motivating the men to continue to suppress them. Look at the case of Kogi State. A single lady is giving headache not only to the governor, to many of the politicians. Natasha, what are we talking about? So the predisposition to context and to be in the political scene is very low in their system. What I'm saying is that these people need to, because as my colleague said, you don't wait for power. Power doesn't fall like roasted chicken. You grab it. And how do you grab it? You have to do your strategic realignment of forces and connect to like minds between and among the women. And then you take over. And when there are so many of them in the process, there will seem to be a clean and sanitized political. But when women are quarantined in the equation, you will find that the quantum or content of violence within the system will be high. Because these players that are responsible for peacemaking within the system are no
Okay.
longer there
Okay.
in
I
sufficient number.
will come back for you to land on your thoughts, and I'll also take the opinion of Dr. Kusa. But then I need to go to, where is this now? I have Kalu Ijika from Akwanga in Nasarawa State. Hello, Kalu. Good morning. How are you today? So tell us, how did the election go yesterday? Could you speak up a bit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yesterday, I covered Nasarawa North Senatorial Zone, comprising Akwanga, Wamba, and Nasarawa Egon local government areas of Nasarawa State. The turnout was very, very impressive yesterday in these three local government areas. Now, concentrating in Akwanga local government, where we have a polling unit, um, Central Primary School polling unit 001, 002, and 003. Apart from the youth and women who turned out in their numbers to cast their votes yesterday, it may really interest you to know that some of the elderly waited patiently to also cast their votes despite the late arrival of voting materials in these very polling units. And in other polling units, the exercise was successful except for pockets of challenges ranging from late commencement of accreditation and voting, issues of difficulty in identifying newly created polling units. Some who said they were frustrated returned home without performing their civic responsibilities. For instance, in Super Cinema polling unit 019, it took the intervention of reporters who were observing and covering the election to ensure that INEC staff helped one of the voters to cast her vote because she became so frustrated when they told her that her name was not found in the register. And just not knowing that it was because the ad hoc staff could not really operate the beavers. And with the intervention of the INEC staff, who was just passing, and he stopped over, and we had to talk to him. He now intervened, and luckily for the electorate or the voter, they were able to identify her name, and she cast her vote yesterday. This is just one out of many others who had similar challenge that could not also perform their civic responsibilities yesterday. By and large, the exercise was peaceful, successful, with a very reasonable number of security personnel comprising the police, the civil defense, who were stationed in various polling units to ensure a successful conduct of the election. Now, coming to Nasarawa Egon, that is where we had serious or little challenge because the exercise commenced very late, around 2 p.m. yesterday, and it went into late night. In some polling units, they were unable to carry out the exercise at all. For instance, we have one polling unit, Umukora School 020 polling unit in Naswa Egon, where some electorates are still waiting this morning for their materials in order to commence and to cast their votes this morning. Then, let me quickly say that collection of results is ongoing now at the College of Education Collection Center for all the polling units in Akwanga local government area.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlo. I think you've said all that that needed to be said. Thank you very much. But then we'd like you to call back into this program, and let us know more about the collation of results. Thank you, Carlo. Okay, I think
I'd like to react.
yes. To the, let me know your reaction to this
Sure.
one or to
No. On the
women,
and
yes.
participation, I take exception to the statement that women relegate themselves. I think we should look at the historical perspective of men and women living together pari passu in a patriarchal society. And the socialization process puts women down, that they are inferior, they are to be seen and not heard. Therefore, it is imbibed in the system that they should walk on eggshells. That leads to so many things. This is not a forum for that. We could have another forum on women in politics and their disenfranchisement. But I would like to mention a few things. The first is patriarchal society, where the woman is seen as inferior. And in the villages, she's to be seen and not heard. Houses will just make babies and get out of sight or make food. In fact, the more educated women are not immune to this. Because if you want to keep your home, you need to do a number of things. I knew what it took me to be a mother and a wife. It's not easy. So, in a patriarchal society, since men have been there for a long time, as I said earlier, please, I need to trash this out. It will take me 1 minute. Since men have been there for a very long time, you need to leverage on equity in order to achieve equality. Please, I repeat, you need to leverage on equity in order to achieve equality. How do you do that? Things like affirmative action, 35%. We people are saying now it should be 50%. If people have been down for a long time and you want to bring them up, you need to do something. Therefore, affirmative action in many areas, in health, in education, in movement, even in the buses and all that. So if that is done, affirmation action says, I want equality. Treat me equally, but not the same. Because the concerns of a woman in this milieu in Nigeria is similar to the concerns of a woman in Kenya, more than the concerns of a man just beside her in Nigeria. I will repeat, the concerns of a woman like me are very similar to the concerns of a woman in Kenya, more than the concerns of a man who is so near me now. Similarly, the concerns of the man are pari passu with a man in Kenya, more than a woman in Kenya. Therefore, we are saying treat us equally, but not the same. Because the things a woman needs, a man doesn't have menstrual period, a man doesn't get pregnant and give birth to babies. The inflection and the makeup of the woman is very different. I know I'm a woman, so I'm in those shoes and I feel it. That's why it's unfair to say that women want to put themselves down. We are not taking cognizance of a historical thing. All these things lead to feminization of poverty. And if you find out men have the money, men's clubs, women need to get there through equity. I will not waste our time on it, but I needed to drop this.
We'll come back to that monetization of our politics as one of the factors militating against women's participation. But then I need to go to Lagos now, where Nero Udufayo is standing by. Hello, Nero.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm very, very much fine. As Lagos is fine.
Okay, so bring us up to speed with the situation in Lagos.
Well, Lagos is still in its calm atmosphere. As you must have known that the Lagos residents are peaceful, loving people, though there were some pockets of grievances in some areas yesterday. Security operatives have been working around the clock to ensure that unpalatable post-election situation did not arise in the state. And mind you, Muslims observe their early morning prayers peacefully as usual. I mean, this morning, while the Christian counterparts are presently observing the usual Sunday service without any form of molestation or intimidation by anybody. And also, our Lagos presidents are seen this morning gathering in front of their various houses, discussing the election matters without anyone interrupting them. That's to tell you that Lagos has been very, very calm. I remember I told you yesterday that the Commissioner of Police in Lagos, Mr. Idowu Owonwa, said that some arrests were made yesterday, and he's here to disclose the number of suspected police officers arrested in the state. But I tell you, Lagos is calm as we speak. Business activities have started. Social life in Lagos has returned to the normal. Don't forget that only the police are deployed about 27,000 personnel, while other sister security agencies also deploy their personnel to ensure that the state will remain as peaceful and calm as it is. Well, that could have been responsible for that in the first way. I tell you also that the roads have been very free for vehicular movement. Presence of security personnel is still very, very much noticed in some areas. Some eligible voters who could not perform their civic responsibilities yesterday for various reasons are waiting to know from the authorities concerned, precisely the INEC, and they are very, very much optimistic if they will still be given the opportunity to cast their vote.
Okay, it's good to know that Lagos is actually peaceful and calm. But then I want you to tell us about reports of violence that we heard around Mafoluku, Oshodi, and Akinyele in Abuja. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, yesterday I told you that the Commissioner of Police went to Epe, and on his return, he arrived with about 25 electoral officers who were rescued from, political thugs who came to disrupt the process of election at that Mapoluku area. We were told that by one of the victims, like one of the electoral officers, that the hoodlums came on a motorcycle with some, locally made double-barrel guns, shooting, during which some of them were injured, while they also destroyed the river, one of their rivers were using in conducting the election. There were also pockets of violence recorded in Ikati and a few other areas, but at least let's thank God that the Commissioner of Police and his team were able to, rescue those 25 electoral officers, though election could not hold at that polling area. And also, we saw signs of their materials being burnt by the hoodlums because they came with some of the ashes of the burnt materials from that voting center.
Okay, before I let you go, tell us about coalition of results. Has it started yet?
Well, I am not at INEC, but the the results collected yesterday from Oroshoki area are since been moved from that place to Koshofe Council area where it will finally be sent, to the appropriate quarter.
Okay, thank you, Nero, for the update. We hope to hear from you again. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I'll keep you posted as soon as possible.
Okay. We move on to Umahia in Abia State now, where we have Lawrence Mukedi. Hello, Lawrence.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Lawrence, can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Yeah, yes, good morning. Please go on. Give us an update on the situation in Umahia.
Thank you very much. For now, there is a continued voting. Voting continues today in some areas where voting could not be completed yesterday or due because of the late arrival of INEC materials. Places like Arochiti local government, places like Ohofia local government, INEC officials and their materials arrived very late. Then some places like some areas in Abayu. Then there's another area at let me call it at Usioma local government. There are some areas the voting started very late, around 4 o'clock. So today voting is going on now in those areas.
What about the turnout?
Turnout. Turnout is very impressive, very, very impressive because people came out in their numbers to ensure that they exercise their franchise. So most of them, especially the youth and the elderly, they came out in their number. Even today, as I speak to you now, I'm in one of the areas. So they are shooting out, voting out for me.
What about
Then in other areas, the collation is ongoing.
okay. What about security arrangements where you are right now?
So no problem. I can see some armies and some police and other DSS and others. They position themselves in strategic areas to ensure that peace is maintained. For yesterday, there was peaceful election in Abia.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, KD. Keep us posted as events unfold in Umahia. Thank you. Have a nice day now. All right, we're moving on to, I think, Calabar now, where we have Bernadine Anam. Bernadine, are you there now?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you. So, what can you tell us about? Just give us a general review of how the elections went yesterday at the polling units that you monitored.
In some polling units within the Calabar municipality and the Calabar South local government areas, of course, it was peaceful, although we had reports of beavers not working, being broken down, issues of not having visas and networks to upload these results. But generally, it was peaceful, and the people actually came out en masse to decide the franchise.
From your own assessment, because from some parts of the country, we've heard that the youth dominated, the voters, in most parts of the country. What can you say about the the people that came out yesterday to vote in Calabar? Did you have the young people, the elderly, women, and what have you?
Oh yeah, we had so much. We had the youth, populated everywhere because these people came out. The elderly came out, men, women, and the youth. Yes, it really came out. It came out to vote, really.
How would you assess the conduct of INEC officials and the machines, to particularly the beavers? Was there any reports of malfunctioning, and all of that?
Yes. Yes, so far the complaints about the beavers is that it wasn't really working in some polling units. These beavers caused a lot of issues, making the people not be able to, vote on time because these beavers were not working. Some said they didn't have data, and some said there's no network. So all this just caused a breakdown of some, things that were supposed to be done on time. But because these beavers are not working at the time that the people were ready to vote, so that just caused a lot of hold up to something. So the beavers were not working.
Okay, Nigerians would like to know if
most of the polling units.
Okay, Nigerians would like to know if collation of results has started yet.
Yes, collation of results right now are ongoing in some of the local government areas. Also, the voting also continues. In some local governments, it had been extended. due to violence or lateness of the materials actually coming in. So because of this extension, the election continues today in some of the local government areas of the state. So, but where elections have been completed, election is ongoing
Okay.
right now.
All right, and I have to let you go now. Thank you very much for talking to us, and keep us posted, please.
Thank you.
All right, I have Wale Williams from Benin in Edo State. I think Wale Williams is attached to the Commissioner of Police. Hello, Wale.
Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine.
So, give us an update.
As you know, previous election in those states may have had their challenges, usually marred by violence. But what we saw yesterday, the security personnel who were saddled with the responsibility of providing adequate security really improved as officers of Nigerian police and other security agencies are there to the conduct of code of conduct and rules of engagement to ensure a peaceful election. Although there were report incidents of destruction of already completed ballot papers, snatching of ballot boxes, and gunshots, especially at Edo South. I followed the Commissioner of Police on election duties, CP Benjamin Okolo. We traveled from Benin City down to Edo North. In Edo North, the election was peaceful. There was nothing happening there. On our way coming back from Edo North, we heard that there were ballot buses smashing in Oredo, in Emapai Primary School, and of course in Iyowa Primary School right there in Ubia West local government. So the Commissioner of Police yesterday said he's going to address journalists today concerning those pockets of violence in those areas that I've mentioned. But of course, when you look at the atmosphere generally in Edo State when it comes to yesterday's election, the atmosphere was peaceful, apart from pockets of violence that we had in Benin City metropolis.
Okay, what can you give us a picture of security during the elections yesterday?
Like I said, I followed the CP yesterday, and then before we traveled to Edo Central and Edo North, we were in Edo South talking about Benin City metropolis. In the morning, the atmosphere was peace, calm. The electorate connected themselves very well. But the only issue we had in the morning is that the late arrivals of election materials and, of course, INEC officials. So when we left Benin City, talking about Edo South to Edo Central, I observed that most of the people that are supposed to be at the polling unit in an area like Agbede, and of course, one particular town before Epuma, they decided to, shade their farm produce. They said that they don't really have money due to the economic situation in Nigeria. But when it comes to security yesterday, it was very well mapped out by the Nigerian police and other security agencies, apart from the few pockets of violence that we had, talking about ballot smashing and, of course, the gunshots in those areas that I mentioned earlier.
Has collation started yet?
Right now, I don't know because I'm speaking to you right now. I'm at the command because the CP promised that those areas that we had that there were pockets of violence, he said he will address us. We asked him yesterday, has there been any arrest, of some of the people that perpetrated that thing yesterday? I said he will address us. But we have our confidence that INEC office, probably I may contact him to know if they started collation.
Okay, so we would like you to call back and let us know the response of the Nigeria police to the pockets of violence reported, in that part of the country yesterday.
Yes.
Thank you, Wale Williams, and be safe.
You're welcome, Maria. Thank you, too.
All right, we move on now from Benin to Port Harcourt, where I have Victory Aisoni. Good morning, Victory.
Good morning.
Yes, Victory, go ahead and tell us what happened yesterday.
Okay, I am stationed at INEC headquarters in Port Harcourt, University, Port Harcourt, on the Aba Road. And then yesterday, a lot happened. Though when we came in the morning, the collation officers went back, went to their local government areas very late. At 4, 5 p.m., we still had some collation officers around who had not gone to their local government area. Then we also had to go out to the resident electoral commissioner, Johnson Alalibo. And then as at 6 yesterday, we still had crowds at the polling units where the monitor, at the polling units where the monitor, we still had a lot of crowds, so we had to ask them to continue the voting until everybody who is on the queue has voted. Then after that, I think we also got to Obiako. Obiako is one of the major local government areas in River State. We went to Obiako, and then the area office where the results are supposed to come into before they are brought into INEC headquarters. But as Obiako, as at that time, as at past, no result had gotten to that place, and they didn't have any clue of what they were going to do. Then we went down to Fauga. Fauga is also a very large local government area. Where there we had collation officers. So some of them had come down. We had them counting and all that. So that was what happened yesterday. But the thing is, this morning now, I'm at the INEC headquarters and nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. There's no result has come in this morning. I've been here before 8 o'clock. Nothing has come in, nothing is happening. Everybody doesn't know what is happening. We'll be asking, journalists have been asking what's going on, because we've covered previous elections. And we know that yes, the election begins the very day of the election, and then by this morning we expect that we should have gone far. But nothing is happening, we've not seen anything, and nobody is saying anything.
When you say nothing is happening, how exactly do you mean? Do we have INEC officials where you are?
Yes, at the INEC, we have INEC staff here in their offices, but the collation has not begun. Nothing, nobody has gotten. We've not seen anybody bringing in any results or anything.
Okay, I would like you to talk to us about the functioning of the beavers, because there was a report yesterday that at the polling unit of the governor, the beavers he wasn't able to, they couldn't accredit him, but of course he came back and the beavers accredited and all of that, and he got to vote. But eventually his wife did not get to vote.
Yes, we also got that report that it was hard for him to vote that yesterday. The beavers rejected his something and facial stuff. And then he had to ask him to go and come back before he was able to vote. My colleague that was there actually gave me update that yes, that he later came there to vote. But he had, I think, there were a lot of issues of that. And then as I was like in INEC office, I saw that they had to come change some of the machines. They had to bring some and then take back to polling unit.
How would you describe the mood of the voters in terms of the turnout and of course their behavior? How did they comport themselves?
Okay, I think people were really enthusiastic that yesterday. They really wanted to exercise their franchise. They were ready to vote. And then, when we went out to the resident electoral commissioner, there was this issue, the crowd there, when we asked them to continue, because it was already past voting time, and when we asked them to continue with the people on the queue, you could see the jubilation. They were very happy. They were just shouting, "Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I must vote. Thank you, sir. We must vote." And that was it. So the people are really ready to be involved in this election. That is just it. And I hope that we should be happy.
Okay, since you're at INEC Collation Center right there, just be there and let us know as soon as the collation starts. Thank you,
All right.
Victory.
Thank
Have a nice day.
thank you. Too.
All right, so many reports from different parts of the country. You were speaking, Dr. Kusa, before I started taking those calls on women's participation and the fact that women did not and will never voluntarily, subordinate themselves to, in terms of politics here now. Anyway,
What is influencing that is the socialization process. I think we should leave that and face the elections for now.
Mhm.
what I see from all the reports, Mwahia, Calabar, Edo, is that there has been peace, relative, not 100%, but relative, which is good compared with what we used to have. There has been relative peace in Mwahia, Calabar, even in the FCT. And then I got a report this morning that in Kubwa, a friend of mine called me that we are collating. We were collating at about past 6 a.m. She said she was going home to brush her teeth and take her bath. So they have been there since yesterday morning. She didn't leave. She went home, ate, came back. So many of them had done that. And they were going to see most polling units, they are trying to see the collation through this morning. That kind of commitment I have not witnessed in my entire life, in this adult life in this country. It is a tempo that I believe should continue. It's a trend that came as a big force, which needs to be galvanized and encouraged. I hear another citizen went home when they said the beavers was out of battery and there was no electricity to. He went home to carry his own personal generator to the polling unit. It was on social media. He went home and carried it. They used it. Maybe they're still using it for the beavers to charge it and do the collation, because he says he cannot go home without hearing the result of that polling booth. So he went to his house. So that level of commitment is something we need to encourage, needs to continue, and citizen engagement would ensure that the benefits of democracy reach the people. People should not stay at home when others are voting and say, I just took this voter's card for identification. Your life depends on it. So that the next 4 years, even if those who trusted this time round don't do well, vote them out. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Abdullahi.
Yeah. Based on the report, we have heard from several segments of the country by reporters. Of course, in a sum, I would like to say that almost every state has experienced certain challenges which are to some extent looking alike or similar to each other, ranging from the lateness or late commencement of voting and accreditation, ranging from also the certain technical hitches associated with the function of the BVAS machine, and also the issue of thuggery and the violence which characterize also the process in some areas, coupled with the issue of INEC delineation and changing or introduction of new locations, which really confused some voters not to have earlier or prior to the election located places where they are supposed to vote until the election. So there are some apprehensions associated with the citizens. But in a more larger sense, based on the report we are having, and so far what we're seeing, and from my assessment, I think the process has been to a large extent successful and commendable. And
Yeah.
fundamentally, or lastly, the whole process, the whole planning process from the federal government side or from the presidency side, National Assembly to INEC, and all the stakeholders involved. What I would like to say is that there is visible and palpable commitments on the side of, trying to push for a free, fair, and credible election in Nigeria, because most of the, strategic plans put in place for preparations. Really, today, what we are seeing is the chain reaction of the impact of those arrangements, which have so far visibly trying to retire the old brigade politicking, which has enveloped Nigeria in the past. But now every politician and every voter and every individual and citizens are coming to face reality towards the search for a new Nigeria.
Our time is fast spent, but before I go to Kwara State, where we have I think at this juncture we need to begin to set agenda for the incoming president. I'll come back to it. Let me quickly go to Kwara. Hello, Rabiu. Good morning. Are you there? Hello, Rabiu.
Hello, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay, good. Thank God. So where are you precisely in Kwara State, and what's the update from there?
Precisely, I'm at the Coalition Center in the Kwara State, where the election results are supposed to start to be collected from the senatorial, all the three senatorial districts. But it is yet to start. It is slated for 6 o'clock early this morning. As at now, they are just trying to put finishing touches on the arrangements, but they have not started yet. Kwara is generally peaceful. The election in the state has been concluded very peaceful yesterday, though it started late. Many of the areas will not start at the 8:30 that was slated for. Some areas started casting their vote at 9:15. There are some like the Alanamu area was 7. The election material came there around 12 in the afternoon. But then there are areas where we have challenges of the beavers malfunction, but the INEC officials came up and ensured everything is put in order. The election was peaceful everywhere in Kwara State. Okay. Then issue of security.
Yeah.
Everywhere the security were around on ground. Even in the hinterland where they feel there could be challenges, they ensure the station officers to ensure that no one tries to do anything untoward. So Kwara election generally was peaceful and everything went in order. At the collation center now, the INEC officials are trying to put all finishing touches to ensure the collation starts smoothly, but it has not started yet. We're still there.
Okay. Be there and keep us posted when when collation starts. Thank you very much, Rabiu, for the update from Kwara State.
Thank you.
All right. The elections, of course, came yesterday. Some is still, taking place right now. But I know that every 4 years, politicians go out there, make promises, come up with manifestos, of this, of that. Now, for the incoming administration, what areas do you think should be the immediate priorities, of the next administration?
Yeah, that is important for us to equally make the case in trying to shape or form, kind of strengths of agenda for the incoming president, considering the fact that people really have demonstrated commitment and resilience in trying to see that our situation is changed for the better, in spite of the hitches and of course the problem associated with the way and manner in which we appeal to sentiment to come into power. I do believe that the next step of our struggle is to be able to discard politicians moving to churches, politicians moving into mosques, imams forming opinions in their sermonizations, and pastors telling me or trying to impose their wills upon people. This country will not survive in that type of context. And then the sacrifices certain citizens are making, just like my colleague pointed out, what we saw the clip of a woman whose part of her eye was damaged, but she summoned the courage to return after being dressed in a hospital, to still vote for that guy who will come to neglect her, still vote for that party who does not have any plan that will take care of that woman or her children. Talk about those young people who have sacrificed even their lives, or those who have been perhaps killed by talks and what have you. And then we don't have a plan. So part of what I propose for the politicians, we call it the Positego. Positego is what we call, we need a strategic, or what we call the political, social, economic, environmental, technological, and gender order. In other words, politicians should be thinking that whosoever is coming in, once you get into the corridors of power, you jettison who you are because your identity is going to change. You are no longer a Hausa man or Yoruba or Igbo or Fulani or whosoever. You are now the president of Nigeria. Any attempt to quarantine people of whatever extraction, you are not looking for peace. You are looking for trouble. So the crisis, just like what I can quote from Reverend Matthew Kuka, he said part of the problem we have with the leadership of Nigeria is that a lot of our candidates get into the corridors of power unprepared for any responsibility. People contest for the sake of the contest, for the sake of making names. But beyond that, nothing is in their heads to be able to devise strategic plans of action to deliver services to the citizens. Today in this country, if you check our history, no regime, and I want to make it clearly, no regime in this country has been able to sufficiently meet the target of providing basic needs to the citizens of this country. When I mean by basic needs, food, shelter, security, education, and health care. These are the five or the first phase of basic needs. We have seen several countries around the world where not only these I mentioned the five streams of food, health care, education, shelter, and security are provided. Beyond that, transportation, communication, happiness are all basic needs. The ultimate essence of governance is the pursuit of the overall happiness of the majority of the citizens of a particular country. So the question for them is, how do I pursue the good of all or the good of majority of Nigerians? And clearly, strategic requirement is in line with the provisions of our constitution that the ultimate essence of why you as a president is elected is to pursue welfare of the citizens, security of lives and property, and the overall development of this great entity called Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kusa,
Yeah.
agenda.
Yes, beautiful. Number one, the fault lines are so exaggerated now. We need a unifier of a president. The president should come there not as a Nigerian, not as an ethnic bigot. Number two, the intangible benefits that are called dividends of democracy, human security, health, education, transportation, all these should be looked into for good governance. Number three, many Nigerians are falling below the poverty line. Something must be done to ensure that more do not fall below the poverty line, and those who are falling need to be brought back up. It's a big task, but we must start from somewhere, and I'll give a few tips. The first, youth employment. Government cannot employ all, but get a good environment, enabling environment for them to employ themselves. Number two, women who are victims of feminization of poverty need skills to ensure that their children eat. Number four, it needs to build on what has been done so far to improve the electoral process. We need it. And he came in on the heels of such improvement. He needs to keep improving that. Number five, inclusivity. PWDs, persons with disabilities, they constitute almost about 20 million or more in this country. They're very important. They need to be included. Women, the minors, the people who are being relegated, inclusivity. Number six, he made a number of promises on the campaign trail. We are going to hold him accountable because there's no woman now. Or her. So we are going to hold him. I would have said him or her.
Yeah.
But it's obvious. It's a him. So we are going to hold him accountable for all the promises he made. Those are not political promises to us. We're going to be tracking his record. Finally, we don't want a president who does not talk to us. He needs to brief us periodically there should be communication and strategic communication. Thank you.
I like that aspect of accountability. Now, how do we begin to demand political accountability from our representatives?
We can do it. Civil society has a responsibility to ensure that leaders are accountable. And we can do this by tracking whatever they are doing. We use parameters. You said this. Within the first 100 days, what have you done? We'll be tracking them. CDD, Center for Democracy and Development, did Buhari meter. They can also do whoever wins meter.
Thank you.
And track the progress of the work. It's a serious matter. We
Very
are tired of
serious.
suffering.
Very serious.
So we'll hold you accountable.
Okay, Dr.
I
Abdullahi,
think,
accountability.
What I have given
Mm.
was just a summary of what the agenda should look like. The
Yeah.
base of the agenda and the content should be developed from
Mm.
what I have said.
Mhm.
If any government will come to this country and attempt to provide these 5 pendulums or 5 strings of the
Mm.
basic needs, food, health care, education, security, everything we are saying revolves around these basic needs. Then we look up to another horizon or another leader should come. Where are we? We have not been able to feed ourselves. We have not been able to educate majority of the people of this country. We only come to an election to say, hey, you need this, you need that. We need to tell you how to vote, how to do all this. Majority of the people don't even know how to vote independent of any guidelines from certain quarters. Now, unresolved issues of education. The youth of this country must stand against whosoever emerges without sentiment, without fear or favor. Are students of this country entitled to student loan? Many families' economies have collapsed. Do they have access to student loan? Are ASU totally free from the shackles of strikes? What about that bondage industry that has caged several millions of Nigerian young people in the Almajiri industry in northern Nigeria? Who wants to solve the problem of security? Do you think you can do anything? You can buy several numbers of bombs and weapons and guns from several countries or from defense industries around the world, wasting Nigeria's money, instead of investing diligently in improving and delinking the chains that have, caged several young or promising Nigerian leaders who are today victims of this Almajiri, whatever. How do we unchain these people? How do we give them the requisite education that will make them to be human beings? Okay. How do we change the system in order for it to be skill acquisition oriented and capacity building engagement? And we are pretending that, yes, we are doing this. We are forming raw materials of strategic violence that will terminate Nigeria. So we have to tell whosoever is the president, we will continue to say it as long as we breathe and as long as we live. We will subject them, just as my colleague said, that transparency and accountability, and in addition, the issue of justice and fairness in the distribution of the wealth of this country. I have a privilege of challenging a head of state in this country who was talking certain whatever I consider bunkum, so to say in quotes, about her trying to produce several billionaires for Nigeria. That's not what the young people of this country. We are not talking about the number of billionaires you have produced in this economy. We are talking about the number of people you have lifted out of poverty, like India and China. That should be the conversation.
Okay, Dr. Abdullahi, I'll give each of you a few seconds each. I want us, what are the lessons from this election, and what are you expecting, from the election, particularly as it relates to our democracy? A few seconds, not even up to 1 minute, because we need to go now.
Okay, democracy is government that makes life, is government of the people, by the people, for the people. It should remain so. And the basic thing for government is to protect life and property. Insurgency, sleeping with one eye open and all that. We need to stop just the kinetic approach. We need the non-kinetic approach, appealing to the minds of the perpetrators. Thank you.
Dr. Abdullahi.
I think it is what I want to see is consolidation of the democratic process, because democracy is better than the best other types of government. whether monarchy, military, dictatorship, and what have you, the best of them so far is democracy because of the expression and the window of freedom and liberty. But I will want to also use the words of Abraham Lincoln to come to conclusion because of time. Otherwise, I would have added Gandhi to say
Add Gandhi.
that the probability, according to Abraham Lincoln, after failing, and then he emerged victorious, and when he was asked, he governs without advisors or cabals or whatever. But when he was asked, media asked him, who are the advisors? He said, the American people. Whenever he wants to do any policy or whenever he carves out a policy, he throws it to the American people, and where the dominant sentiment goes, he then implements it, and he emerges the 16th American president and one of the best in history. And he said to Americans that the probability that we may fail in the struggle ought not to deter us from the support of the cause we believe to be just. If we believe in democracy, I call on the youth of this country. Beware of these merchants of violence and these conspirators hiding under the garment of religion and ethno-tribal sentiment to cause commotion to the democracy. But I believe if the Igbo man will resonate with this demand for new Nigeria, the Hausa man will resonate with this, the Yoruba man will resonate with this, that what we need is a president. We don't need ethnic champion or a tribal bigot in the horizon to come and be pretending under certain traditional regalia. We don't need display of agbada or whatsoever or suits. We need a president who can wear his jeans and can engage the citizens and can do more to the citizens, and let us see it on ground. And
Okay.
finally, Gandhi will say, if you do your assignment well, a man is but the product of his own thoughts. What he thinks, that he becomes. If we think to be a doomed republic, that will be it. If we believe that this entity is capable of regaining its lost glory and be repositioned at the hearts of Africa. Because I heard somebody say that when Nigeria shakes, it's the heart of Africa. Every system in the body of Africa will be sick. So I believe that Nigeria and Nigerians will look at it. Whosoever emerges, we give him a resounding cooperation and understanding.
Thank
We
you very
challenge
much.
him anywhere
Thank
he
you
goes
very
wrong.
much, Dr. Abdullahi. Thank you
so
very much. And I know that the takeaway from here is for the incoming administration, security, healthcare, education,
Human security covers all that.
human security, like
Education,
you put
health,
it,
and all that.
healthcare, and communication.
Communication.
Communication. There must
Talk
be
to us.
at all times. Thank
Don't
you
cut
very
us
much.
off.
Thank you. And if you're just joining us, we've been it's been Monday Studio on Africa's largest radio network and the radio station of the year. And I've had in the studio as my guest Dr. Abdullahi Bello. Is a researcher and an international affairs analyst, and of course Dr. Oluyemi Dayo Kusa, an independent conflict transformation strategist and gender specialist, and a former director, Institute for Peace and Conflicts Resolution. I must thank the two of you for your expertise, for your experience, and your invaluable insights, on this program today. Thank you very much for being our guest on Monday Studio. I think I'd like to have you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Anytime soon.
And you were a wonderful host.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very eloquent.
Thank you very
Eloquent
much.
and
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you, Ma. All right. And of course, I would like to say a big thank you also to everybody that made up the production crew, started from the Director General of FRCN, Dr. Mansour Liman, Director Programs, Usushima Key, Director News, Hosseina Akila, Director Engineering Services, Sanda Askira, Director Sports and OB Abazayan, Director ICT Gidado Ibrahim, the production teams from Programs, News, Engineering, Sports and OB, Online and ICT Directorates, and of course, my name is Mariam Joanna. Thank you for staying with us on Monday Studio. Join us again this evening at 4:30.